Today we have a lot to get into, including more leaked photos of the Nintendo Switch 2 ahead of its release in just 3 days. Yes, in under 72 hours, this console will be available. The next generation of Nintendo. That feels surreal to say. I mean, we are really getting down to the wire here in terms of when this thing is releasing. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet actually got some footage of its Switch 2 patch, and it looks pretty good. I'm very happy with what Game Freak has done with the Switch 2 version. The Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour game got a new overview trailer, and we've learned that you will need to buy some accessories to 100% the game, which makes sense, but it is a little funny. We'll talk about that app as a whole, because what a weird game. Why is it not a pack in Nintendo? We got a new look at the mouse controls in Game Builder Garage. They're also going back and updating that game with a Switch 2 version, which is an interesting one because I don't know how many people are really playing it, but still pretty cool. 007 First Light is being revealed this week. We're getting a massive third-party Switch 2 announcement in just a couple of days because, as we already know from the April 2nd Direct, that 007 game is coming to Switch 2, so we're having a third-party showcase just for that game, and it's going to be on Switch 2, so definitely worth tuning into that. Fantasy Life I has passed 800,000 copies sold. Just want to, highlight that here in this video. And then finally, I think the main topic is that it looks like a Nintendo Direct is in fact not happening in June, or at least none of the reliable insiders have heard about it. Nate the Hate is saying he does not know of any imminent Nintendo Direct, so that is what we are talking about today. All of those news stories and the lack of a June Nintendo Direct, seemingly. Of course, if you are new here and you enjoy Nintendo Switch 2 news and content coverage, I would appreciate you liking the video and subscribing. Let's get into it. Alrighty folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games. We have a lot to talk about today, but the first thing I really want to highlight is just the fact that it's 3 days away. I mean, I know I've done this in the past couple of videos as we've counted down the days, but the fact that we are so close to this console, it almost doesn't feel real, to be completely honest, and that feeling is only further cemented, I guess, whenever we see more leaked photos of it, when people are getting their hands on it. We've seen more and more unboxings popping up on YouTube. Nintendo's taking those down as they come, but this is one image I saw really going viral over the past couple of days, over the past weekend. It is this person who I guess runs a local store or something in like Germany or something like that, and they just loaded their car up with the Switch 2s for transport. At first I thought this image was AI. I was like, this is weird. But if you actually look at it, you can tell these are real. This is a real person who has, I don't even know how many Switches this would be, like 80, 100, I don't even know. But they loaded up their car for transport here. Not a scalper, it is a local store, so I'm sure they got their shipment somehow, although it is weird they're transporting it themselves. So that's a little sus. But yeah, this thing is really starting to show up in stores. We've also had way more posts of people saying they actually got theirs in early. Here we have a post from just a few hours ago over on Reddit from a Cheesy Mud, who said some pics of the Nintendo Switch 2 from home, and they have it, man. They have the console. People already have this thing. We did learn over the past 24 hours that the entire fear over having to update the Switch 2 to play Switch 1 games, it seems like that's true for Switch 1 games. However, someone has already confirmed that you do not need to update it for Switch 2 games. So for Mario Kart World, for Cyberpunk, for the Legend of Zelda games on Switch 2, Rune Factory, like the games that are on the cartridge, there's no update required for those. So in theory, there are definitely some people out there already playing Mario Kart World. I haven't seen too many spoilers or anything yet. Frankly, I think that might be because there's not much to spoil with that game. But yeah, I mean, this thing is real and it's coming out very soon, under 72 hours at this point. I put 3 days in the title and thumbnail, and technically that is true, but also, I mean, depending on where you are and if you're doing a midnight release, it's really only 2 days away. I mean, from when I'm recording this, I'll be getting ready to go to GameStop and pick up my pre-order, right? So at the midnight release or the 9 p.m. release. So very exciting times ahead. I cannot believe it's actually happening. Real quick, before we talk about Pokemon, I do want to announce a stream. I'm going to be streaming tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to be doing a final hype stream kind of hangout leading up to the release of the Switch 2, playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the final time in the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe era, before Mario Kart World. So if you want to tune in, maybe do some races with us, it would be a lot of fun. We're going to have, just a chill stream getting hyped up for the Switch 2, which at that point will only be 2 days away, or really for me, like a day away. So that'll be tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific time. I'll have it scheduled. You can go hit the notification bell so you get alerted when we go live. It's going to be a ton of fun. But let's go ahead and talk about this Pokemon Scarlet and Violet patch. We have some new footage of it, and we have confirmation that it is running at 60 FPS. The way Nintendo's been talking about these patches has been very hit or miss of how much details are they actually giving us, how much information is there actually being provided. However, we now have actual footage of Scarlet and Violet running on Switch 2. I'm going to use Game Explain's comparison video. They put up a comparison here, so huge shout out to them. I'll have that link down below. Go watch their full comparison, but it looks a lot better than I was expecting. 60 FPS instantly makes this game like a point better on a review scale. Like, it immediately fixes a lot of my issues with this game, but it's not even really just the frame rate. I mean, you can tell that the visual fidelity of the game, the resolution, like that is clearly higher as well. It's still not really at the point that a Switch 1 game should look like. I mean, Breath of the Wild and Xenoblade, these games are also on Switch, and Pokemon does look a lot worse than that in terms of like the textures and everything, and the map terrain, and it's all like, you know, sharp edges and stuff. However, this FPS patch, on top of the draw distance and how many Pokemon are on screen, I mean, this looks like a new game, almost, at least to me, as someone who really had issues with Scarlet and Violet's performance. I know some people, you know, they didn't really care, but for me, I mean, I'm excited to jump into this. This is one that I really want to get to pretty early on. I still haven't played the Indigo Disc, so I'm glad I waited. I'll be doing that on Switch too, because this patch is doing a lot more than I expected. Applauds to Game Freak for finally fixing it. I mean, they should have fixed it on Switch 1, but at least now on Switch 2, over 2.5 years later, we will finally have a version of this game that runs well. And hopefully, since Legends ZA will also be 60 FPS for the Switch 2 version, hopefully we can just expect 60 FPS Pokemon games moving forward. That would be really nice. Okay, next up, let's talk a little bit about the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour game, if you really want to call it that. This is a $10 download on the eShop on day one. I played this at the April 2nd Switch 2 hands-on event, and, you know, I wasn't blown away or anything. I wasn't, you know, like, oh man, I need to get this on day one. However, I do think, especially if it were free, this is a fun idea. I like the idea of really taking the Switch 2, the Joy-Con, and making it like a game world that you're playing on, and you're learning about how all of the technology works. It feels really weird to charge for it. I mean, this really is a tech demo to the truest meaning of that word, right? You're going through, you're doing HDR tests, and you're doing resolution and frame rate tests, and it's like a little mini game to see if you can tell what the frame rate is. You're playing Mario 1 pixel perfect on a 4K display. So it really is a tech demo, and for them to charge for it does feel a little weird. However, I think this is going to be a fun little opening act for the Switch 2. This is something that I'm going to be working on a lot of videos for my other channel, so definitely subscribe there for all that. But this is one that if I wasn't doing that, if I wasn't going to be opening up Mario Kart and Yakuza and playing these things for videos, Welcome Tour I think would be a great little opener for the Switch 2, like the first game I play, just to really get acquainted with the hardware as a little, I mean, it's literally a tech demo, so a little, warm up for the real games on the platform. However, we did learn about how much content there is in this game and the fact that you will need some accessories to do them all, which makes sense because it is really showing off the hardware. So Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour will include 20 mini games and 14 tech demos. You can earn 3 medals in each of the experiences. If you plan on snagging every single medal there is, it turns out you'll need some accessories to get the job done. So you will need the camera. There's a camera mini game. You will need a controller with the GL and GR back buttons, so either the charging grip that is sold separately or the Switch 2 Pro controller. That makes sense. They want to show off those, as well as a 4K supported TV or monitor for 1 mini game and 1 tech demo. So if you buy Welcome Tour, you don't have those things, you will not be able to 100% it. So yeah, get ready for that. Although I imagine if you're a Nintendo fan in the trenches enough to be buying Welcome Tour, you probably are getting the camera. Realistically, you're probably getting the Switch 2 Pro controller, and you likely already have a 4K monitor. So it's not a big deal or anything, and I think it is expected, and I'm glad that there's many games to show off those things for the people that are buying them. However, just be warned, if you aren't planning on getting a Pro controller or a charging grip, you won't be able to 100% Welcome Tour without buying that, which is a little funny. Wanted to highlight this really quick. We had a new little clip from Game Builder Garage in the Nintendo Today app this morning showing off mouse controls. This is one of the few Switch 1 games that's getting patched on day one that is actually getting full native mouse controls, and it makes sense. I mean, this game literally has you dragging and doing functions and stuff for game developments. I question how many people are still playing Game Builder Garage, though. It feels like a weird one to patch, not because mouse controls don't make sense. Of course they do, but how many players does this really have? I mean, it was a $30 game. We know it sold over 1 million copies, but that was like 5 years ago, 4 years ago now. Is there really an active community of people playing Game Builder Garage? It just feels a little weird to me. This is one that I think I might check out, see what people have been making over the years. I haven't played it since it came out in 2021. Maybe this will breathe some new life into it, though. I mean, it certainly would make developing games within it a lot easier having the Joy-Con 2 mouse. So just a random one, wanted to include it. This game's getting mouse controls, and that's pretty neat. Y'all know me. I'm the biggest fan of mouse controls on Switch too. So have to talk about mouse controls whenever I can. I was scrolling through Go Nintendo to find a story that we're about to talk about, and I saw this pop up. Nintendo prepares official Switch 2 out-of-stock signage for retailers. And as you can see here, this is like the back of a Walmart or Best Buy or something, and they already have the standee saying it's out of stock. That is so funny to have that prepared ahead of time. It makes sense, but that is hilarious. Now let's talk a little bit about 007 First Light. So several years ago now, it feels like it's been forever, IO Interactive, the developers of the Hitman series, announced that they had acquired the license to make 007 games and that they were working on a 007 game. Fast forward to April, they confirmed that that game would be coming to Switch 2, which implies that, I mean, we're getting one of our first major day-and-date third-party games that'll come to everything else, but also Switch 2, and that was a pretty big deal. However, what they showed on April 2nd was still just like a CGI trailer with the classic 007 theme playing. Well, we now know what the title of the game is and when we can expect more information. So, reading from Go Nintendo here, they say IO Interactive officially announces 007 First Light. New details coming this week. If we scroll down, we can find that they have announced a IO Interactive showcase for June 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern, so 6 p.m. Pacific. Is that during Summer Games Fest? Maybe that's right after Summer Games Fest. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe it pops up in SGF in Jeff Keighley's event. However, we're finally going to get a good look at this game, and I mean, maybe it's soon. I mean, this could be a 2025 game, I feel like, depending. I mean, Hitman 3, that was 2021, but this is coming to Switch 2, and that's really exciting. It's a major multi-platform game. It's been a long time since we've had a 007 release. I think the last one would have been, was it 007 Legends on Wii U? Or maybe there was like a version of that came to PS3 a year later. I don't think there's been a 007 game since the 360 era, though, like that generation of consoles. And I love these games growing up. I'm not a huge fan of the movies or anything, but the games, I always really enjoyed the games, playing them on, N64, of course, with GoldenEye, but also From Russia with Love on GameCube, Everything or Nothing on PS2. So I've had a lot of fun with the 007 games over the years, and IO knows how to make games like this, so I think this is going to be really good. And I'm excited to see if in this showcase that they're planning, will they specifically talk about it coming to Switch 2? Will it actually be shown there? I imagine it probably will, right? So if you're looking forward to some major third-party news on Switch 2, definitely check out this IO Interactive showcase for some 007 gameplay. This is the feel-good story. Really wanted to highlight it here because I have been loving Fantasy Life. I talked a lot about it over on my second channel today, so check that out. But Level 5 announced that Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, has passed 800,000 copies, and they are expecting to hit 1 million units by, well, they say by June, but it was already June when they posted this, so maybe by the end of June is what they mean. Either way, great sales for this game. That number's only going to expand quite a bit, I imagine, on Switch 2 launch day, as this is a Switch 2 launch title. If you are on the fence with Fantasy Life, I really like it. I can recommend it wholeheartedly. I think it is a fantastic game. That's what I spent all day yesterday doing, was just playing Fantasy Life, trying to grind it out, because I want to finish it before the Switch 2 comes out, so I'm not, trying to play Fantasy Life while playing Mario Kart World and everything. But yeah, 800,000 copies for this game. Huge success for them. Very happy for Level 5, and they are back. One of my favorite developers of the DS era is finally back, it feels like, and that feels good. And then for our final topic today, we have some talk from Nate the Hate, as well as PH Brazil, regarding a June Nintendo Direct. So earlier this morning, Nate the Hate posted a new episode of his podcast. I'll have it linked down below. And in that podcast, he said, I have not heard about a Nintendo Direct happening in the immediate future. Now, he says immediate future. That still certainly leaves some room for interpretation of there being a Direct at the end of June, as there usually have. We talked about, I think last week, PH Brazil had said that he had heard of a Direct happening either in the launch week of Switch 2 or the week immediately after, which I talked about how, I think that's possible. Certainly Nintendo can do whatever they want, but it does feel a little weird to do, especially with SGF happening. We have the Xbox showcase. There's rumors of a Sony State of Play happening this week now or next week. Nintendo has been going at the end of June. That just has been their status quo for their Nintendo Directs. And, well, after Nate the Hate said he had not heard of a Nintendo Direct happening, PH Brazil over on Family Boards had this to say. He said, quote, "Hey there, everyone. I'm purposefully trying to stay away from message boards in general, but since I discovered my comments from last week found their way here, I should probably say this. I'm trying to dissociate from the whole leaker thing. I'm focusing on opinionative content creation and general reporting, which will end up being informed by leak stuff at some point, but not necessarily." It feels a little weird to say because that's true of pretty much anybody, like a Jason Schreier. He says, "I briefly mentioned Direct Stuff offhand when discussing the lead up to SGF during a stream a couple of days ago, but that was an error of judgment. I genuinely didn't anticipate the rest of the internet finding out within minutes, but that's clearly out of my control nowadays. The person I heard this info from insists on it, but I've watched this film before, and with Nate hearing otherwise, I no longer believe we'll have a Direct soon. You may consider this me backtracking, as it is, although I never meant to track in the first place. I don't know what their plans are, and I'm not going to talk about them publicly in case I find out. I hope you have fun with the Switch 2 launch. Enjoy your games, be nice to each other," and that's that. See ya. So, PH Brazil, 100% backtracking on saying there would be a Switch 2 Direct over the next couple of weeks. I think at this point, all respect to Brazil. I think, I can't really watch his content because he doesn't, do it in English. But from what I can tell, he's a great guy. I'm sure he did not mean any ill things when he said, oh, okay, there's going to be a Direct, and then now he's backtracking. However, It is worth noting, as someone who covers these rumors, he keeps striking out. Like, it's very rare, actually, that Brazil has been right. So unless something changes, unless he says something that I'm, like, fully on board with, I personally don't think I will be talking about anything he says anymore. But to be fair, it sounds like that's what he wants to happen here. He says he doesn't want to be a leaker for this thing anymore. However, it hasn't really been true for the past year and a half. He keeps trying to break scoops and say, oh, there's a direct happening. There's a Switch 2 reveal happening this time. And most of the time, at this point, he has been wrong. So, PH Brazil, I think we can finally write that off as, like, not an insider. But then he says he will report things that may be informed by leaked stuff to him. I don't know. It just seems a little weird. But Nate the Hate, the much more reliable of the two when it comes to Nintendo Direct timings and announcements from Nintendo, he is saying he has not heard of a Nintendo Direct happening in the immediate future. The word immediate is very important here. It is possible that there is a direct still happening in June, just not in the next, 10 days, I would say. And even then, that's not concrete. Maybe he just has not heard of it. Although, given his track record, if there was a direct happening in the first half of June, I think he probably would have heard of it by now. But either way, I do think there is a good chance that we see a June direct still at the end of the month when they have been doing them. So let me pull up my calendar real quick, actually. That would be June 26th, June 25th, somewhere in that range. That is literally perfect. It's 3 weeks after the console releases. It's 3 weeks before Donkey Kong Bonanza. You have it right in the middle. You have your final trailer for Bonanza. It is possible they just do all these things on social media and on Nintendo Today. They could date Kirby there. They could show more Bonanza there and Hyrule Warriors and Metroid Prime 4 Beyonds. However, I still think there's a Nintendo Direct happening. I do still think we will get one at the end of June, just not in the first half like we were maybe foolishly optimistically hoping for over the past week. Now, that isn't to say you shouldn't be excited for the upcoming week, though. I do think, and I could be wrong about this, but we have SGF on Friday. We have the Xbox Showcase on Sunday. We have this IO Interactive Showcase on Friday as well. We're going to get some nice Switch 2 news over the next 10 days or so, even if it's not in the form of a Nintendo Direct. Even though we won't be getting first-party Nintendo news, we should be getting quite a bit of third-party news, especially from Xbox. That's my expectation. That's a prediction. I don't know that. But Xbox is definitely the most notable absence from the Nintendo Switch 2 lineup for 2025. There's rumors of a ton of more of their games coming to PlayStation 5 later this year, like Starfield. There's been talk of Halo. Gears 1 Reloaded is coming to PS5 later this year. I would kind of be shocked if we don't see anything announced from Xbox for Switch 2 at their event. Or at least maybe around it. Maybe it's not in the event itself. Maybe they put it on a blog post afterwards. They have done that in the past. It's possible they save any third-party announcements from Xbox for a June Direct, if there is a June Direct at the end of the month. But I have a feeling we are going to see some nice announcements, both at SGF for Switch 2, but also at the Xbox Showcase. I could be wrong, but let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you expect to see any third-party news for Switch 2 at these two events? And more importantly, do you think there will be a Nintendo Direct this month, or do you think they'll just wait until like September and do one then? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. But that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, as always, let me know your thoughts on all of the stories we discussed in this video. As I mentioned earlier, I will be streaming Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and just kind of doing a hype stream before the launch of the Switch 2 tomorrow, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want to play Mario Kart with me, as well as other viewers, definitely tune into that tomorrow. Of course, as always, you can subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch 2 news and content. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. Check out my Nintendo collecting channel at It's Amiibo. And you can click on one of these two videos to listen to me ramble about even more Nintendo stuff. Until next time, folks. Peace.